is on 1410 Blanding Street. 1410 Blanding Street. We also have an HQ in Charleston, Greenville, Orangeburg, and Aiken, and Rock Hill. But please continue to join the movement. Knock doors, call your friends, encourage everybody to register to vote, and also bring them out to vote. So next up, without further ado, is Miracle Jenkins.
Hey, thank you guys for coming. My name is Miracle Jenkins. I'm one of the 2 deputy field directors here in South Carolina. Part of my job, I go around and I listen to a lot of personal stories. So you know I love it when I get to tell a personal story or two. This one is about why I support Senator Sanders. So I'm from the city of Chicago. Growing up, hey, we've got a few Chicago fans out there. Growing up, my father unfortunately passed away due to his drug usage, and that left my mother on her own to figure out how to raise her 5 kids. Eventually, using Section 8, which is federal housing assistance, she was able to move to a little town called Evanston. For her, I think it was a respite from the rough and tumble that can be city life. For my twin brother and I and the rest of our siblings, it was a world of opportunity. We were exposed to things we simply hadn't been exposed to before. Teachers taught at some of the finest institutions, classrooms filled with computers, more gyms and pools in one high school than I could possibly imagine. I was pretty lucky. That education put me on a track and enabled me to be here where I can advocate for Senator Sanders. But most kids don't get that lucky. And Senator Sanders understands that. His debt forgiveness plan, his College for All plan, it's rooted in the idea that an investment in your neighbor's child is an investment in your child. We're all one nation. We're all one people. Yeah, give it up for Bernie. Well, absolutely. Yeah. Gosh. Oh. And that's what this campaign is about, the idea that a rising tide should lift all boats. Bernie shows that not just through his college plan, but through Medicare for All, through his climate plan. There's so many different things. So that's why I support Senator Sanders. He understands the urgency and the need. But I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be easy to get these things done. We have powerful folks that don't want Senator Sanders to get elected. So it's going to take hundreds of thousands of Americans standing up and demanding to have their voice heard, putting some skin in the game. So for some of us, that's going to mean knocking on a few doors, maybe making a few phone calls, maybe just sharing your personal reason why you're supporting the senator with your family. I'd say over Thanksgiving, but we already did that, so you have the holidays coming up to do that. But that's essentially it. That's what we talk about that's what we mean when we say get a part of the revolution. Just get involved and speak your story. So I'm going to encourage everyone here to join the revolution. We got organizers all about. Don't leave this room without signing in or getting involved. If you see me, feel free to pull me to the side. Miracle, plug me into the campaign. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Representative McKnight.
Is not for the vertically impaired, I see. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Representative Cesar McKnight. I have the pleasure of representing District 101, which is Clarendon and Williamsburg counties. And that's right, the barbecue capital of South Carolina. Vinegar-based, no mustard. I know that was bad in this room. But I think we're all here for the same thing, and that is to make America a better place. I think that we all are tired of the status quo. I think we're tired of hearing what can't be, and we're ready to embrace what can be. Now, I did not go to church this morning, but there was a Sunday school lesson that I learned not long ago. And it was that the children of Israel were about to go into the land of milk and honey, and they sent spies to go look into that land to see what was there, because God had promised them things. Well, the spies came back, and they brought a good report. The land's rich, it's fertile. It's everything we want, but there are giants there, and they're bigger than us, and we can't beat these giants. See, we've got giants now called Big Pharma that want to keep us sick in perpetuity and pimp us for our last dime. We've got giants who want you to work for peanuts and pay you as little as possible. We've got giants that want your children to go to substandard schools, and they want you to believe that these giants can't be slayed. Well, I'm here to call those peoples liars to their face. This must end. Now, in that lesson, I learned that there was an older gentleman, but his name was Caleb. And all the young people were ready to go forward and take it because they remembered what God said. But all the older folks, we can't do that. That's too much. Well, God had a message for the older folks. He says, I'm going to leave you in the woods to die. None of you will make it except for Caleb. I know my Caleb. His name is Bernie Sanders. So I want to tell you right now that you're going to have a conversation with your friends, with your parents. You're going to have the conversation that I had to have with my mom that gave me every excuse to embrace the status quo and to keep on trotting with these same old people that come up with the same old story. But you talk to them, and when you point out the obvious, they'll get it. So I'm telling you over these holidays, I know you don't want to talk to your mean uncle, the one that says all the things that is so bad, or your cousins or your dad, but they need to hear it because the future is at stake. Why do you think every week there's a new billionaire in the race? It's the money, folk. They smell the threat. They know that time is up and people are starting to become fed up with all the money going to the top and we being left with nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go tell your friends that these next months are going to make or break our country. And I want you to tell your friends in South Carolina, particularly, that South Carolina is in play and Bernie Sanders is here to win the Palmetto State. Now, I'm going to call up the person that's been on the vanguard of this campaign. She's traveled all over the country. She's left her home of Ohio. She's left her family, and she has been on a mission. And she has been one of the best and strongest fighters for our cause. She has given us the spark that we need, and she has been beside Senator Sanders' side from the very beginning. And I want to welcome her from the great state of Ohio, my friend, Senator Nina Turner.
Hey, South Carolina! Oh, thank you. I want to thank Representative McKnight for that wonderful introduction. How you doing, Mrs. Sanders? Hey, University of South Carolina, how is everybody doing? It's a beautiful thing to be back here in South Carolina, maybe to the chagrin of my home state of Ohio. When people ask me where I'm from, I say Ohio and South Carolina because I've been here so much. I love y'all, South Carolina. Got to add y'all to the list. Representative Gilliard, Representative Alexander, how y'all doing? We got two of our very own in the House, Representative Alexander, Representative Gilliard. Come on, somebody. We have our South Carolina Party Chair in the House, Trav Roberts. He's shaking his head no. Sisters and brothers, today is December the 1st, 64 years ago. A woman by the name of Mrs. Rosa Parks. Come on, somebody. 64 years ago. Come on. It's always time for a little black history. Is that right? We ain't got to wait for February. Is that right? 64 years ago, a woman who had the courage and the conviction decided that she wasn't going to get up. And one of the things that she talked about as she reminisced on that moment is that she really wasn't trying to make history as much as she was doing the right thing. She said, I was tired of us being mistreated. The us were African Americans. Fast forward 64 years later, and all of the Rainbow Mosaic Coalition of this country and of this world, dare I say, the coalition of conscious-minded people, we must rise up and say the same thing that Mrs. Rosa Parks said, that we are tired of being mistreated. So we owe it to her and other black women like her and other freedom fighters like her who embody the principles and the strength of the everyday people of this nation who understand when a system is rigged and a system is wrong. And just as it has been rigged on purpose, baby, we gonna unrig it on purpose. We tired of being mistreated. And we take a lesson from Mrs. Parks, and we owe her a great debt of gratitude for being an ordinary person who was willing to put a little extra on that ordinary so that extraordinary things can happen. Hello, somebody. God, I wish I had a cordless mic, South Carolina. I feel like I got to just stay right here. Y'all know I like to move around, sister, move around on the stage. They got me locked in one place. So, Senator Bernard Sanders, very much in that freedom fighter tradition, an everyday person who at a young age as a college student started off being a freedom fighter. Is that right, Ms. Sanders? Freedom fighter. The only candidate on that stage who was arrested, come on somebody, for justice. As a young man, he understood. Very much in the tradition of Sister Parks, to be the president of CORE, to support activities that were going on in the South. As the freedom fighters of the South were on the move, you have freedom fighters in the North on the move as well. Sick and tired, in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, being sick and tired. So here we are, 64 years later, in the wealthiest nation on the face of the earth, and we still have many more miles to go and much more work to do to achieve freedom, justice, and equality, and dare I say equity for all. And that is what Senator Bernie Sanders stands for. And Columbia, can a sister just say this? It is Sunday the last time I checked. Is that right, Mr. Chairman? Is it Sunday? So a sister is a politician and a preacher, and had the opportunity to be at Reed Chapel and worship this morning, the senator and I. But in the Christian tradition, there's a scripture that says that you will know the tree by the fruit that it bears. Not the fruit that it thinks it wants to bear, not the fruit that it halfway bears, but the fruit that it bears. And Senator Bernie Sanders has been bearing good fruit for a very long time, always on the side of justice. So we don't have to make no stuff up for his record. He's been on the front lines for a very long time. He's been on the picket lines for workers for a very long time, not just when he started running for president. Hello, somebody. You will know the tree by the fruit that it bears. He stood up to Amazon and Disney and demanded, along with SEIU and the Fight for 15, to say that these workers deserve, as well as every other worker in this country, deserve a living wage. And before he even becomes the 46th president of the United States of America, He's been standing up for the people. And because of his courage, 400,000 of our closest friends got a $15 an hour wage increase.
Hello, somebody. Oh, yeah, this is just what a sister needs. I'm free. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty. Come on, somebody. Y'all know y'all can't keep black girl magic, can't be kept down, can't be contained. South Carolina. So what I am saying about our senator, South Carolina in a state that doesn't pay teachers the wage that they deserve. Come on, somebody. In a state where classrooms have too many students in one classroom. Hello, somebody. In a state that refused to expand Medicaid. Come on, somebody. In a state where HBCUs need some love. Come on, somebody. In a state where workers don't have a right to a union. Come on, somebody. In a state that pays the third highest premiums for health care. What am I saying? What are you saying, Sister Turner? What I am saying, that this moment in time calls for not a half measure, not somebody who's going to negotiate away the big ideas and big dreams before they even take the oath of office. It demands a champion, somebody who's been on the battlefield for the working class people of this nation, and his name is, and his name is, and his name is. Come on, somebody. We ain't going to play with this thing. So all of these people who are running, as the senator would say, they're very fine people. That's what the senator would say. But either you are on the side of the people or you are not. Either you believe that we should have Medicare for all as a moral right or you don't. Either you understand that in a nation that is not broke, that is wealthy, that can afford to give $1.6 trillion tax cut to the wealthiest people on this country without batting an eye. But when it comes time to put a down payment on Main Street, we got a problem. Something is wrong with that. And so we need a champion. One thing that you do know about Senator Sanders, he ain't gonna sell you out. He raises his money by grassroots donors like the people in this room, so he only has one special interest to answer to, and that is you, and you, and you, and you. He don't have to stand in the living room of multimillionaires and billionaires and say to them that nothing will fundamentally change for you. Well, guess what, sisters and brothers in South Carolina? If nothing fundamentally changes for multimillionaires and billionaires, then nothing fundamentally changes for you. We need fundamental change in the United States of America. So we need a champion. And he's been tested. We need leaders who do dream big dreams. So don't listen to the folks who say that it can't be done. They need to get out of the way and let those of us who believe that it can be done do the thing. This, sisters and brothers, just as 64 years ago, Sister Rosa Parks defied the status quo. I want you to think about that. Had she listened to the status quo, had the civil rights leaders listened to the status quo, then we wouldn't have what we have today. They defied the status quo, just as in our time, we're going to defy the status quo too, baby. Oh yeah, we're going to do that. And for the folks, and I don't know how you can be a Democrat worth your salt. Yeah, I'm going to say it, and you don't believe in Medicare for all. Now, if you're okay with the way things are going, for you, what the senator is talking about is radical. If you don't have to worry about paying for insulin, if you don't have to worry about 20-somethings not telling their parents that they can't afford their insulin so they die, if you don't live in Denmark, South Carolina, worrying about clean water, or in Ames, Iowa, worrying about clean water, or in Flint, Michigan, worrying about clean water, or in Toledo, Ohio, worrying about clean water, then everything might be going all right for you. If you don't have to worry about your job and your boss changing your health care plan every year, then everything might be going all right for you. If you are a mama, especially a black mama, who dies at 3 times the rate as white women in childbirth, or black babies dying at higher rates, or our babies, depending on what zip code they live in, not being able to go to good schools. See, everything mightn't be all right for you. So for you, what the senator is proposing in terms of Medicare for all, college for all, canceling student debt, canceling medical debt, all of those things seem radical. But baby, if you are among the workaday people of this nation, what he is proposing is not radical, it's right on time. Come on, somebody. It ain't radical. It's right on time. Come on, somebody. It's right on time. It's right on time. It ain't radical. To say that we deserve to have clean water is not radical. It's right on time. Saying that we are going to treat our sisters and brothers who are trying to get into this country with respect and dignity is not radical. It's right on time. Saying we are going to reform a criminal justice system that is rotten to the core and legalize marijuana is not radical, it's right on time. Saying that we're going to make investments in this very Mother Earth that we have destroyed is not radical, it's right on time. And telling the wealthiest people on the face of this earth, in this nation, that you will no longer be able to buy your way out is not radical, it's right on time. So if you are suffering in this country, your champion, the person who you can guarantee will stand up against all of the, who has an anti-endorsers list? Senator Bernie Sanders has that list. President FDR said, judge me by my enemies. Senator Sanders said, judge me by my haters. I'm going to put them all on my email. Come on, somebody. This is a time for transcendence. So sisters and brothers, can you do something for me? Because the sister's feeling really good, but I think the senator is probably ready. So I done ran across the room and everything, and I'm feeling good. Jesse? So can you do something for a sister, can you? Besides, everybody that's on social media, you need to tweet something out about Mrs. Rosa Parks. Don't forget her. Our giants, the shoulders we stand on. Women like that who stood up against the forces of evil in this nation. Say we deserve a better day. Can you do something for us, sister? Raise one hand for yourself and one hand for somebody else. Dr. Maya Angelou said these words. She said, have the courage to stand up for yourself and then the courage to stand up for somebody else. This is what this revolution, this people's revolution is all about. So we will have Medicare for all with these hands. With these hands, we will cancel college debt. With these hands, we will have college for all. With these hands, we will take care of Mother Earth. With these hands, women will get their whole damn dollar. With these hands, we will reform a criminal justice system that is rotten to the core. With these hands, we will have transcendence. And sisters and brothers, with these hands, we will elect Senator Bernard Sanders. Come on, somebody. The next president of the United States of America.
Power to the people.
Well, wow, a lot of people here. Thank you. So how was the food? Good? All right. Let me thank the DJ Shay Harley for the music. Let me thank Jessica Bright for her words and Miracle Jenkins for her field pitch. And let me thank Representative Cesar McKnight for all that he's doing in the legislature and for his support. And let me thank Senator Nina Turner. See, and let me thank Terry Alexander, also in the legislature. all the other elected officials who are here. One of the banes of my existence is I always have to follow Nina Turner. It's a hard thing to do. But let me pick up where Senator Turner left off. And that what she essentially asked you to do is to think outside of the box, to reject the status quo, to look at the world in a different way than Congress and the media suggest that we do look at the world. Okay? Not to accept what is given to you, but to go into your hearts and ask yourselves, where do we want to go as a people? What is the moral thing? What is the right thing to do? And then ask, how do we go from here to there? We live in a political system which is corrupt. Strong word. What does that mean? What do I mean when I say the current political system is corrupt? All right, that's one thing. It means that if any of you had a couple of $1 billion, you could announce, and I know many of you do, I'm sure this room is loaded with billionaires. It's usually the audience that we attract. Any one of you can announce your candidacy for president, and you would be taken seriously even if you were the dumbest person on earth. Because you got $1 billion, you could buy it, and the media would cover you extensively because you can spend unlimited amounts of money buying TV ads. That's it. What else about the current, besides big money dominating the political process? It's not just billionaires, it's running for office. It is billionaires being able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars donating it to candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. What else about the current political system makes it corrupt? All right, you got an electoral college. That's good. Last I heard, Donald Trump lost the general election by 3 million votes. But he is in the White House. Something doesn't quite make sense about that. What else about the current political system? You got, all right, you got voter suppression. All right. If you believe in democracy, which I do and I know all of you do, what you understand is our goal as a nation is to make it easier for people to vote so that we can have the highest voter turnout of any major country on earth, that we can be proud. We're a democratic country, and we got 70-80% of our people voting. But that is not what we have. And in fact, you got governors all over America, Republican governors, who are working overtime to suppress the vote, to make it harder for people to vote rather than easier for people to vote. And the reason for that is they understand that when more people vote, they are more likely to lose. So I say to those cowardly Republican governors, if you don't have the guts to participate in free and fair elections, if you don't think you can win an election based on your ideas, get the hell out of politics and get another job. But it's not just a corrupt political system that needs to be completely overhauled. It is a rigged economy. All right, what do I mean by a rigged economy? Raise your hand. All right, that's more, I would say that's part of a rigged political system. What is a rigged economy? Day-to-day life for millions of people. What does it mean? Yes, stand up. Good. All right. Wage slavery. All right. All right. Stay seated. No, not let you off so easy here. I'm a tough teacher here, man. You got to deliver. What does that mean, wage slavery? Good. All right. All right, let me ask some of you right here. What are some of the wages some of you guys are making right here in South Carolina? Who wants to tell me? Yes, ma'am. $8 an hour. How much? $7.50 an hour? $7.25. You got the real minimum wage there, huh? All right. Does anybody think that anybody can live on $7.25, $8, or $9 an hour? You can't. Okay? That is what wage slavery is about. People are working and they're not going anywhere. They're working and maybe they're going more into debt. Maybe they're working 2 or 3 jobs and still living below the poverty level. Right, because healthcare costs are going up, education costs are going up, housing costs are going up. So when we think outside of the box, the proposition that we put out there is to say that if somebody in America is working 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. And here is the truth. Here is the facts. That right now in this country, which is the wealthiest country in the history of the world, half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what that means. I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. I know what that means. It means if your car breaks down, you wonder how you're going to get it fixed. If you don't get it fixed, you can't get to work. You can't get to work, you lose your job. You lose your job, you ain't going to be able to take care of your family or pay for the light bill. All right? That's living paycheck to paycheck. Half of the people in the country are living paycheck to paycheck. But what else is going on in the economy? Everybody living paycheck to paycheck? Everybody struggling? What's the other side of the equation? What about the people on top? How they doing? Raise your hand. Yep, sir. Yep. Stand up. That's right. All right. Well, the wealthy people are doing very, very, very well. More about the rich. How they doing? Okay, I want some more hands here. Yep, stand up. You got 3 people in America who own more wealth than the bottom half of America. You have more income and wealth inequality today than any time since the 1920s. You got 49% of all new income going to the top 1%. In the last 30 years, the top 1% have seen an increase in their wealth of $21 trillion. Bottom half of America has seen a decline in its wealth. So what you're looking at is an economy in which the people on top doing phenomenally well, while tens of millions of workers are struggling to make ends meet. So what we are going to do about this when we are in the White House is we're going to raise the minimum wage in this country to $15 an hour. We are going to end the absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar and black women making 60 cents on the dollar compared to white men. And we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions. And given the fact that there is so much work that needs to be done in America, our infrastructure is collapsing. We need great teachers. and I hope many of you will think about teaching. We need great child care workers. There is an enormous amount of work to do, and what I believe is we should have a guaranteed federal jobs program available for anybody who is able to work. The United States of America is the only major country on earth to not guarantee health care to all people as a human right. So what does it mean? It means that today we have 87 million people who are uninsured or underinsured. What do I mean by underinsured? What does that mean? Means what? Nope. Underinsured. What does that term mean? Raise your hands. You all know what it means. Let me get some more hands. Yeah, gentlemen there. Yeah, stand up, sir. Yep. Right? All right. What else does it mean? Underinsured. Yep. Yep. That's one of the things. It means that technically, and I suspect many of you are in the boat here, you may have insurance, but your deductible may be $5,000 or $10,000, and you don't have the money out of your own pocket to pay for that first $5,000 or $10,000, so you don't go to the doctor when you should. It means you can't afford the co-payment that you're required to pay when you go to a doctor. What a civilized healthcare system means is that anybody in the country can go to any doctor he or she wants, regardless of the income of the family. It means there are no premiums. It means there are no co-payments. It means there are no deductibles. It means there are no out-of-pocket expenses. It means that we cover dental care, that we cover hearing aids and eyeglasses, and home health care. Mostly what it means is you have a healthcare system which is not designed to make billions in profit for the drug companies and the insurance companies. So what we are going to do is to expand Medicare, which now only covers people 65 or older. And over a 4-year period, we're going to go from 65 down to 55, then down to 45, down to 35. And in 4 years, every man, woman, and child in this country will have quality health care as a human right without having to take out their wallet. And it means that we're going to take on the drug companies and stop their greed. Now, you don't want to hear me go on about the drug companies because you'll be here all day. But this is what I want to say. I want you all to think about how it happens that we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. I went over to Canada about 3 months ago with some people from the Midwest who are dealing with diabetes. They're diabetic. We bought insulin for 1/10 of the price. And that's not unusual. There are many drugs sold in America, same exact drug, same company, for 10 times as much, 15 times, 5 times, whatever it is. We're going to put an end to that. America will not pay the highest prices in the world. And then there is another issue out there of enormous consequence. And here at the University of South Carolina, it's appropriate to talk about it. And that is education in general. How are we doing on education in this country? All right, who wants to tell me why? Raise your hand. I see you right there. Yes. Yep. Green shirt. Yep. Get a mic. We got a mic there? Not dealing with bullying. Okay, that is an issue. Yes, ma'am. Stand up. What? Systemic racism within education. That's right. Underfunded public school systems. And that is a huge issue all over the country, especially bad here in South Carolina, where you got schools who are completely underfunded. You have teachers who are leaving the profession because they're not earning decent wages. And you have kids who are underperforming big time. So what do? How do we create, in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, how do we create an education system that we are proud of? First of all, any psychology majors here or psychologists? All right, what are the most important years of human development? What are they? 0 to 3, 0 to 4. That's right. And that's, how we develop intellectually, emotionally as human beings. How are we doing with pre-K and child care in America? We're doing horrifically, all right? Bottom line is that at a time when everybody understands those first years are pivotal in terms of what happens to us later in life, we have a system in which working class families cannot find good quality, affordable childcare. So if we love our children, we are going to bring about high quality, universal, affordable childcare. Yes, we are going to invest in our kids. And we have a public education system which in many, not all, but many parts of this country is in deep trouble. And here is, when we talk about changing national priorities, what it means is that I believe, that education is essential to all of us as human beings from the first day that we're born to the last day that we are alive. And that means if we respect and understand the importance of education, we respect educators who are teaching our kids. So our educational program invests billions in Title I schools, the low-income schools in America. We are going to invest heavily in schools to help them deal with kids who have disability issues. We are going to raise teachers' salaries in America to at least $60,000 a year. Now, right now, there are a lot of bright young people who are thinking, yeah, it might be a cool idea to become an educator. But they're not going to do it because they got student debt, and they're not going to make it on $35,000 a year. We got to change that. We have got to change that. We desperately need young people to go into education. We need minority members to go into education. So what we are going to do in terms of higher education, two things. And as Senator Turner was telling you a moment ago, these are not radical ideas. We're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Now, you don't know this, most of you may not know this, but 50 years ago in the United States, Some of the great public universities, like the University of California, the University of the City of New York, were virtually tuition free. Am I right, Virginia? All right. So we can have tuition-free schools in America 50 years ago. We surely can do it today. Second thing that we're going to do is we're going to cancel all student debt in America. Now, right now, you got many, many millions. Just 20 minutes ago, a minute before I got up here, talked to a young woman who's going to graduate, I think, right here, the university here, $50,000 in debt. And there are people going to graduate with a lot more debt than her. All right, and that means when you get $50,000 in debt, every month you're going to have to be paying off your debt. And that means you may not be able to get married and have kids, literally. You can't buy a home, you can't buy a car. I don't think that people should be punished in the way that we are punishing people today for the crime of getting a higher education. Getting an education is not a crime to be punished. And here is what thinking out of the box. When I say this, many of my critics, and they are all over the place on every editorial page in America, they say, well, that sounds really good, but how are you going to pay for that? Very expensive. All right, so I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it through a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. That's it. Making public colleges and universities tuition-free and canceling all student debt costs about $1.4 trillion over a 10-year period. Having a modest tax on Wall Street speculation will bring in $1.6 trillion. All right? And what we have got to get used to, and this is what we have got to get used to, not easy, this is thinking outside of the box. When Trump and his friends gave the 1% and large corporations a $1 trillion tax break a couple of years ago, nobody asked how you're going to pay for it. That's okay. It's the rich and the powerful. They are entitled to even more money. What's the problem? 11 years ago, we bailed out the crooks on Wall Street who destroyed the economy. We gave them $700 billion from the Treasury and trillions in zero-interest loans. Not a problem. That's Wall Street. Those are the masters of the universe. They are gods on earth. Of course we should bail them out. But if you are a working class kid struggling with a $50,000 debt, oh, we can't afford to bail you out. Well, I think it's time we change the priorities in this country in terms of who we help. Now, we have a president, and I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this president. Not worth it. Except to say we are going to beat him in November. That's all I'll say. But we have a president who thinks that climate change is a hoax. Now, I disagree with Trump on everything. But when he says that, that's an understatement. But when he says that, and when others say it as well, they are doing an incredible disservice to their own children and their grandchildren and future generations. It is a horrible thing to turn your back on the great threat that this globe, not just the United States, the whole global community is facing. So let me tell you not only that climate change is not a hoax, but that what the scientists are telling us, and I don't mean to get you too nervous here, but what the scientists are telling us, the people who know the most about this issue, is they have underestimated the severity and the degree to which climate change is wreaking havoc not only on our country, but on the entire world. The ice caps are melting faster than they had anticipated. The ocean is warming more rapidly than they had anticipated. That means that sea levels are rising at a faster rate. And it is altogether likely, if we do not get our act together, that cities like Charleston and Miami and New York City will be severely underwater. Parts of those cities will be underwater. Right now, you know, Venice, Italy, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, underwater. All right. You are aware that in Houston, Texas, we had unprecedented rainstorm that flooded that city. You all know what happened recently, a couple of years ago in Puerto Rico, in the Bahamas. You understand what happened to Hurricane Sandy that hit the East Coast. You know that right now in Australia, in California, unprecedented amounts of wildfires. I was in Paradise, California. That town mean anything to anybody? Paradise was the town where a few years ago literally wiped out by a terrible fire that killed 86 people, destroyed almost all the buildings in that town. There are more fires right now than at any time in history. You're looking at more drought. You're looking at more flooding. You're looking at, according to the United Nations, tens of millions of people being climate refugees, forced to leave their land because they can't grow crops, they can't find drinking waters. So we are facing a huge threat to this planet. And we are going to have to act in an unprecedented way. And anybody who tells you that climate change is a hoax, you tell them that they are turning their backs on their own kids, their own children, and their own grandchildren. So what we have got to do is have the courage to take on the greed of the fossil fuel industry and to tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. And I'm proud to tell you that we have introduced the most sweeping climate change legislation in the history of this country. Okay? And what we are doing is, as rapidly as humanly possible, moving this country away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies. And we are going to invest heavily in wind and solar, and states like South Carolina should be leading the country in terms of solar energy. Lastly, I want to say a word on another issue that is on everybody's minds, and that is the very broken and racist criminal justice system that exists in this country today. And again, I want you to think outside of the box. Just take a step out and ask yourself, how does it happen that in the wealthiest country on earth, we have more people in jail than any other country? China is 4 times our size in population. It is a communist authoritarian country which does not tolerate dissent very well. We got more people in jail than China does. Right? So when you look at the issue, it is clear that we should be investing in our young people in jobs and education. That means that we have teachers and support staff and mentors who make sure that kids are not dropping out of school, are making sure that kids get the education they need and the job training they need to succeed in the world out there and earn a decent paycheck. It makes more sense to me to be investing in our young people in jobs and education than jails and incarceration. Number two, many of you don't know it. We got 2 million people in jail today. 400,000 of them, about 20% of them, are in jail having not been convicted of anything. Do you all know that? They are in jail. They were arrested. They weren't convicted. They can't get out of jail because they can't afford cash bail. That's an issue here in South Carolina. And you got absurd situations where people get arrested. Maybe they're driving too fast. They get a speeding ticket. They don't pay the ticket. The ticket goes up. Can't pay the ticket. They end up in jail because they're too poor to pay the damn ticket. And they can't get out of jail. All right? We are going to end cash bail in America. People should not be in jail. We're going to end private prisons and private detention centers. Corporations should not be making money imprisoning fellow Americans. We are going to reform penitentiaries and prisons in America so people are treated like human beings, not animals. We are going to make sure that when people leave jail, they have the education and job training they need in order to be reintegrated into civil society, so they don't get back into jail. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. We're going to end the so-called war on drugs. We are going to legalize marijuana in every state in America. We are going to expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And here's something else that we're going to do, which is a fairly radical idea, but it's an idea that I didn't come up with. I talked to a lot of my friends in the African American community. This is what they said, and I think it makes sense. They said when marijuana is legal, what we don't want to see is a handful of large corporations controlling the industry. And that is what is happening. That's what's happening in states that have legalized marijuana. You go to states like Nevada and California where it's legal, Colorado, and you see these big billboards, buy marijuana, buy this, buy that, controlled by a handful of corporations. So what I think is that what we should do is provide an opportunity for those people who have been hurt the most by the so-called war on drugs. Those people who have ended up in jail because of the war on drugs. And I'm talking about the African American community, the Latino community, Native American community. Those are the people who have disproportionately been impacted by the war on drugs. And we have in our criminal justice plan efforts to provide billions of dollars in support to help small businesses in the minority community, those affected the most, get into the legal marijuana business. So let me conclude by just telling you what you already know. We are living in incredibly dangerous times, and we need to respond accordingly. And that means we need to involve our family, our friends, our co-workers in the political process. And if anybody sits around and moans and groans about student debt, or they can't afford college, or they're making $8 an hour and they can't get by, tell them to stop complaining, stop moaning and groaning, and do something about it. Now, Donald Trump and his friends think they're going to win re-election by dividing the American people up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion or whatever else. What we are going to do is exactly the opposite. We are going to bring our people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American. We're going to bring our people together around an agenda that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And the way we are going to win this election is by having the largest voter turnout by far in the history of the United States of America. And I say to the young people here, your generation is the most progressive young generation in the history of this country. You should be proud of that. But your generation does not vote in high enough numbers. If young people voted at the same percentage level as people 65 or older, we could transform this country. So today I am here at the University of South Carolina to ask for your support to help me win the primary here in South Carolina. I am asking for your help to win the Democratic nomination. And I'm asking for your help to defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. But I am asking even more. I'm a tough guy here. I'm asking even more of you. Winning is not enough. What we have got to do together, that's the only way it can be done, is not just beat Trump. We got to transform this country. We have got to create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the people on top. So, brothers and sisters, this is an unprecedented moment in American history. It truly is. And in fact, in world history, because we got to deal with climate change. This is a moment in which people cannot throw up their hands in despair. They cannot get depressed. They cannot just turn the TV off. That's not enough. They must be actively involved in the political process. "50 years from now, or 100 years from now, people will be looking back on this election. And let us make sure we do the right thing." Thank you all very much.